Alright there geezers, Jules here from FGS, home of the Future Game Show. And here's the thing, while I have never made a video game in my life, I have across my tenure here on the industry and in YouTube spoken to a metric shedload of devs who have or are going through the process of doing that. And you know what unites every single one of them? No, it's not the fact that they're universally tired or have a crippling dependence on caffeine, it's that they are passionate about what they do. And at its heart, the video game industry is one built on passion, because these are experiences designed to make us contemplate, reflect on, and quite often escape from the humdrum of our regular lives. Yet sometimes a developer puts in so much time, so much passion and love into their games that it is genuinely impressive. And that's what we're here to champion today. As I'm Jules, this is FGS, and these are games where devs cared too much. So let's kick things off by talking about Dwarf Fortress. Okay friends, I won't lie to you. I have officially spoken about Dwarf Fortress way too much in recent Deep Cut episodes, to the extent that after this mention today, I will be barring it from appearing again for at least a few months, because after all, how can a game be a deep cut if it's mentioned all the bloody time? Well, the answer to that question is once more the subject of this entry, because Dwarf Fortress is insane, and honestly, the level of detail here is shocking, baffling, it's overwhelming in some places. Because while looking like binaric vomit, the original Dwarf Fortress is actually an astoundingly complex strategy game with battling, trading, and base management all tied together. But it also goes above and beyond when it comes to character and world generation. This is because when populating a new world, the game will create NPCs with different skills, abilities, and most importantly, physical features. In a game that looks like this. This ranges from injuries to how many fingers and toes they have to the individual tracking of damage to their skin, all of which informs what weapons they can use and how effective they are in battle or in their day-to-day jobs. Incredible, right? Like, I can't be the only one impressed that a game tracks the condition of your skin as a means to affect gameplay, right? Well, it actually goes even further than this with the game world itself, because Dwarf Fortress also contains a script that simulates hydrostatic water pressure. I don't even know what that means, but you can do it! And all of this was programmed by one person, Tarn Adams. So yeah, I think it's safe to say that just maybe, they cared quite a bit about Dwarf Fortress and its development when stuff like this is included. Right, let's move on to the next one, micro mages. Now, whenever I get to speak about micro mages, my heart does this weird little somersault, and while doctors have informed me that I desperately need to get that looked at, the romantic in me just believes it's because of I think this game is amazing and I just absolutely love it. Now, you might be looking at this title and scratching your head as to why what you're seeing is so impressive. So let me explain. You see, Micro Mages is a game that was released for the NES, but it was released in 2019, a good 25 years after the last official game, Wario's Woods, hit the console in 1994, which by my calculations is longer than some of the audience that is watching this video has been alive. God, I'm old. This was the passion project of MorphCat Games, who decided that our current era of day one patches and gigabytes of installation space was simply way too much, and just went thoroughly old school with things, and indeed micro mages, challenging themselves to fit their entire game into the 40 kilobytes of space offered up by a NES cartridge. The result is one of the most technically impressive titles in recent years, as the colour, vibrancy, level design, and supreme amount of content stuffed into this small space really is mind-blowing. Plus, Micro Mages also offers a 4-player co-op mode to boot, which truly boggles the brain as to how the team managed to fit all of these moving parts into such a limited space. In fact, the team was so proud of their achievements that they documented some of the tricks and secrets that they used to break the NES programming system apart, and you can watch the whole thing on their YouTube channel. It means that Micro Mages isn't just a technical wonder, however. It's a loving homage to platforming games of old, and it just drips with care and appreciation from start to finish. Do yourself a favour and play this game. They did actually move it to Steam as well, so you can play it there too. Okay, my brain's starting to rattle around. Let's hit it with the flippers and talk about Pinball FX VR. So recently, the FGS team and myself went over to San Francisco in order to attend the Games Developer Conference. And that's why I look so bloody tired, because I am indeed very jet lagged. And we also shot our Live from GDC showcase, and you can go watch it over here. And in between speaking to devs, playing tons of amazing games, and of course, eating far too much and then farting up a storm on the bumpy tram rides home across the city, we went to speak to the devs over at Pinball FX VR. Now, as they showcased their brilliantly fun VR take on pinball and spoke at length about how they licensed games for this title, one offhand comment left me utterly speechless. You see, it turns out that when the team are making their tables for the game, they acquire the physical table itself, right? And then they take it apart piece by piece, 3D scan every single component before then replicating it again inside their game engine. This is incredible, right? I genuinely thought that maybe they took like a photo of the table and just free-handed the design. But no, every single flipper, bumper, rail and light is a one-to-one recreation of the table. Even the components you don't see under the table are immaculately recreated. And it truly gave me this sense that these just aren't devs making content for their game and just calling it a day. They're pinball maniacs fastidiously studying each component to create an experience that is as accurate as placing hands on the table itself in real life. And you know what? I love hearing stories like this about games because it connects me so much more to the experience. That somebody went to this effort and took this amount of time, it makes it, without hyperbole, the reason why I love video games in general. So cheers, yeah. All of these information drops are satiating my appetite, and speaking of which, let's talk about Monster Hunter Wilds. Okay, I know, you're probably looking at me with the inclusion of Monster Hunter Wilds in this episode and just thinking, what the fresh hell are you actually talking about, Jules here? How is this a deep cut title? Come on, one of the most celebrated games of recent memory. Well, the answer to that is, oh dear, the Evil Finger Temple is back once more because I'm here to stretch the premise of this video to cling film layer thin levels and wrap my filthy hog in it. Because while yes, we are talking about Capcom's latest and arguably greatest monster slaying title, we're approaching things from a different angle. And I say this because we're not focusing on the intricate movements of the monsters, nor the sheer amount of time the devs must have spent monitoring and mapping animal behaviors, because instead, we're going to appreciate just how much energy, effort and love they put into those bloody cooking animations. Seriously, I've never, ever been this envious of what a digital character is eating in a video game before. I mean, look at the movement of butter melting in the pan. Look at the marbling of the meat. Look at the way the food flexes and hangs off forks and knives. This took effort, like a worrying amount of effort, but you know what? I will thank them every goddamn time I see this play out. Now, to be fair, this is the culmination in a long line of culinary innovation for this series, as in prior games we've seen cat chefs cook up a storm and players able to whip out a barbecue to roast up things, but you know what? But here in these moments, there's a quiet satisfaction that comes with seeing a hearty meal being appreciated. Honestly, it's the same reason why I love Dungeon Meshi. I mean, the food just looks amazing. So thank you, Capcom, you utter food fetish weirdos. And speaking of weird, let's talk about Still Wakes the Deep. So, Still Wakes the Deep continues to be one of my favourite recent horror game experiences, and it is a love that only deepened the more and more I began looking into how this game actually came together. Now, as covered in a rather brilliant big old feature in Edge magazine and in a behind the scenes look at the game in last year's Future Games Show Spring Showcase, this is way more than just a horror game set on an oil rig. This was a slice of life, a period accurate horror that really captures a specific moment in time. From research into fashion trends to odd foods like fluffy mackerel, linguistics and accent research, and of course a deep dive into a lack of health and safety playing havoc on the lives of those working on the rig, it is clear the devs took their time to embrace the era. Yet it's the rig itself that became the subject of my fascination when the team unveiled several sculptures commissioned by artist Matt McConnell that act as a means of creating the game's soundscape. These sculptures, called rigs, could be tapped, strummed and bashed in a manner to create the sounds and strains of the megastructure. And as each was constructed of materials present on the oil rig in question, it created this tangible authenticity that you just won't find elsewhere. This is the sort of thing that devs don't do unless they are fully committed, heart and soul, to the immersion fact of their titles, as simply it is a level beyond what is expected of them. Yet to see, or in this case I guess hear it in action, really does connect their efforts to the experience, making Still Wakes the Deep that little more special than it already bloody well is. And speaking of special, let's talk about the gargantuan surprise hit of this year, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Honestly, I know it took me a fair old while to get around to playing it, but Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 is quite likely to be my game of the year. And why is that? Well, because it has everything that I look for in a video game, and I mean everything. Wonderful character-rich writing? Check. An astounding landscape to explore? Double check. Attention to detail that borders on the absolutely fanatical? Oh, you're pulling my pizzle if you don't think that's a big bloody check. From you having to wash your clothes to avoid stinking up the joint, getting bonuses to your reading if you sit in comfortable places, to Henry whistling songs from the original game whilst he's smithing, there are so many things to fall in love with in this game. And to be honest, Warhorse Studios really didn't actually need to go this hard. Yet we're all so bloody glad that they did. Honestly, my time in this game has become a joy of exploration. From reading notes littered around a noble's house to watching people go about their daily lives, my time in Bohemia has felt like a vacation away from the tried and tested and, quite frankly, boring RPG experiences you can find elsewhere. In fact, this game is so good, in my opinion, that it's actually raised the bar of expectations for other titles like Elder Scrolls 6, which at one point in time was going to be the uncontested king of the realm. This is a level of detail that only comes from a dev team that truly cares, honestly, about what they do. This wasn't done to push sales. This was done to enact a vision that they wanted to deliver, and one can only dream of what they're going to come up with next. And if you ever wanted to thank them, well, I'll tell you what, you can actually visit this secret dev room here in the game. Oh, actually, they're all dead. Maybe just fire them an email instead. And let's close out the show by talking about Harold Halibut. Now, the video game industry is no stranger to titles that take a long old while in the oven, and is actually filled with even more stories of people forgetting about said metaphorical gaming oven and just letting its contents turn to burnt, charred messes that not even Weatherspoons would dare to serve. However, it's much more rare to find examples of games that took their sweet old time and still came out smelling of roses. Yet Harold Halibut is just that, a title that took 14 years to make and is a wonderful fusion of awkward charm and absolutely beautiful visuals. Yet this long gestation wasn't because of fraught development issues, but rather because of the team's decision that their game would feature characters animated in stop motion, meaning that each expression and movement that you see captured in this game uses real-life clay models that then were brought to life with digital wizardry. The result is something that feels kind of like a Wes Anderson script delivered through the lens of Wallace and Gromit, and there is nothing I dislike about that combination, except maybe for the lack of cheese-based motivation, but that's just, you can't have everything, right? This is a game that may have moved at a glacial pace, but was done in spite of the industry rather than at the beckon of it. This was an expression of art that just reeks of care and attention to the most minute of details, and as a result is able to elicit wonder and awe with every step it takes. Cheers. And there we go, my friends. Those were some video games where the devs cared way too much. And you know what? We were bloody grateful that they did, because we got some absolute banger experiences out of it. Let me know what you thought about it down in the comment section below, and if you want to carry on chatting to me, you can do so by going over to Blue Sky, where I'm at RetroJ, but the O is a 0, and you can follow my amazing editor Mark over on his social medias here as well. But before I go, I just want to say one thing, likely before I then pass out from jet lag tiredness, but one thing I will say. Even though we spoke today about video games where people cared so much about them that they took their time to craft amazing experiences, we can actually take something from that and apply it to our own lives as well. Sometimes rushing into a situation is not the best thing for us. Taking time to analyze things, to gain a bit of perspective and reflect on your actions before you commit to them is very important indeed. In this world, we're told to move a mile a minute. But you know what? Why do we have to? I don't think that that's a very healthy way to live, to push yourself to constantly go foot to floor all the single time. Just take some time to yourself to look at things and then think what's the best way to approach them. Because sometimes you might realize you can't do this on your own. You might need some help. And you know what? That is okay, my friends, because friends, family, professionals in the support industry, people care about you and want you to do well. So take that time before you commit to an action and just think, what's the best way to do this? Put the kettle on, chill out for a bit. You've earned it. As always, I've been Jules, you have been awesome. Never forget that. I'll speak to you soon. Bye.